All right, what is going on? This is Jake, and welcome back to another edition of Warcry Games podcast. Now we're up to episode number 3, and joining me today is just going to be John. Brandon had to dip out. He is visiting family in Thanksgiving. We had another guy on the hook that might be joining us next week, Darren. But yeah, it's Thanksgiving, holidays, weekend, so not everybody could make it this time. But yeah, how you doing, John?
Good. Better.
Going good so far?
Yeah. I like our new recording time.
Yeah.
This is good.
Nice and early.
Yeah. We were just on Call of Duty last night.
Yeah, probably like 6 or 7 hours ago, I think we were. I saw Darren too. Like I was looking on the Switch right before you joined. I had some free time, so I was playing a little bit of Fire Emblem. And I saw last time Darren logged in was like 5 hours ago or 6 hours ago, and I was like, oh man, this dude was like putting on the midnight oil. But we were doing the exact same.
Yeah, well,
yeah, dude.
I don't know what happened. Maybe he really likes his Fire Emblem. So
yeah.
Anyways,
continuing on, I'm actually taking this from your idea. We talked about it last week on our night shifts, but basically covering what we're going to be talking about throughout this podcast, just to give everybody a rundown. And so everybody knows the links to our topics will be down in the description below with timestamps next to them. So what we're going to start with is going to be the normal segment of what games we've been playing, and then we'll move on to the best bit. We're going to cover the best video game sidekick. After that, we're going to be jumping into game news with Xbox, Project Scarlett, Call of Duty, Half-Life, and virtual reality. And then we're going to finish up with the Warcry, and we're going to talk about like pre-release marketing and hype and how that leads to our decision whether or not to buy a game. And then we're going to finish up with just an outro. That's pretty much going to be it. But let's jump into the first segment and go with you. What have you been playing so far?
Well, yeah, just the usual mix of Call of Duty and Death Stranding. I dipped into a little bit of Link's Awakening, but other than that, just the 3. I gotta say, with Death Stranding, that I haven't picked up Jedi Fallen Order yet, but Death Stranding just feels so nice.
Dude, I really want to get Jedi Fallen Order pretty bad.
I really want to get it too, but I think what I'm trying to say is I'm just sucked into the game right now. It might not be anytime soon though that I'm going to get into Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah. I will say that it's probably for the better, because right now I'm hearing some polish issues are happening with Jedi Fallen Order.
Some
glitches, some what's going on. Like it's not doing too well in terms of like the performance level. It's not unplayable by any means.
Do you know if that's across like all platforms, like say like PS4, PC, Xbox, or is it really like I haven't really fallen into it?
I don't know, and if I were to guess that it's just probably just across all the platforms. I mean, think about it. They rushed it out, right? In my opinion, EA saw, Rise of Skywalker is coming out. Yeah, Rise of Skywalker is coming out. And they went, hey guys, it's time to bring out Jedi Fallen Order.
We need this out now. This is pre-release hype and marketing, which is exactly kind of what we're going to go into for the podcast
and the guys
later.
Were like, by the way, I can't. And then they're like, oh, no, it's fine. Just get on with it.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So I recently finished more part. I'm in the central region now. I finished building more parts of this road. I started construction on a new road, and like I said, it's with a lot of these structures in the game, you're shared with the entire internet, so everybody's contributing resources to it. So I'm seeing these roads, helping being built and whatnot. It's just a really satisfying feeling. You're trying to, you're all working as a community to try to, better your delivery speeds and whatnot. just kind of funny that and this is noted in, I think, either another podcast or a comment on the internet. I saw it somewhere, but they said that it's odd that Kojima made a game about connecting people, yet it's splitting people apart. And I thought that was really, really, there was a lot of truth to that.
It's interesting, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much judge every game based off what it tries to accomplish. If there's a game that's trying to be more like Metroidvania, like it's going for that aesthetic, that battle style, the system of getting items and stuff, and it actually achieves that. Even if the delivery is weird, it's like, okay, well, what was the game trying to do? Well, with Kojima, it's trying to do like the whole, community type thing, get people together, get people talking about the game, create a new genre.
Right.
Like it wants to be kind of divisive. If it didn't, then I don't think it would be getting the kind of hype it did. If it was just like another third-person overworld shooter, just any generic like game or something slapped with a Hideo Kojima title, it wouldn't be carrying as much weight as it is now. But people are kind of seeing the deeper meaning behind it. They're, like you're saying, like getting into the communal. What do you call it? You plant something down, other people build off of it. That mechanic and stuff into it. Like people are loving that.
Yeah.
Like a living world and stuff. And
like I said, man, and then that's just the community aspect of it. Then the story is a totally different thing, and then the story, like I've mentioned to you before, off air, it's such for me it's such a interesting. It's a weird story, but it's so interesting enough that I would play the game. I would replay the game on easy mode just to see the story again. More and more, Jake, more than 30 hours in, more and more, I'm beginning to see Game of the Year material.
Interesting. 30
You
hours in.
You heard it here first.
I'm about to check.
On the Warcry Games podcast.
I'm going to see how long
Game of the Year.
Hey, man, if it's nominated, it's up there. There's enough of a buzz talking about it for it to warrant it. So the main story, if you just do the main story, it's 37 and a half hours. Main story plus extras is 53 and a half hours. Completionist is 99 and a half hours.
Right.
Average is around 48. So that's interesting.
It's there. Yeah.
It's meaty.
Yeah. Story wise, I think I'm like halfway through because I'm only on chapter 3.
Yeah.
I don't know how many chapters there are, but I mean,
You're
chapter
probably doing
4
a lot of side stuff.
Oh, I'm definitely doing a lot of side stuff because like I don't want it to end. That's the mark, I think, of a good game is when you just play through it and then you start doing more and more side quests like here and there. You don't want to complete the story because you don't want it to end. I had the same thing when I did Breath of the Wild. When I was playing Breath of the Wild, I just was doing more and more side quests and I was like, I don't want this game to end. I put the game down and then I never picked it up again.
Technically, the game never ended, so it's still a great game.
Yeah,
they accomplished it, man. You got to pick that game back up. I'm telling you, that's like it's my number one game of all time now. And it's that good. I mean, you already put like a ton of time into it, so you kind of know what it's offering, But
right. I had 80 hours into Breath of the Wild, and then I just stopped cold turkey. That's so weird for someone to do, but
I would recommend getting those memories at least. Finishing off the shrines. I mean everything. I'd recommend 100%ing it minus the damn Korok seeds or maybe like upgrading everything. Yeah, it's a little ridiculous. Brandon's actually did that, and I think he said it was like another 10 hours or so of gameplay following a guide just to get that. And I'm not a fan of that. That's not something I want to do, but I mean, if you're like a true full-fledged onboard, masochist, like you really, really want to do that, then but I mean, playing the main story, getting through the final boss, getting all the memories collected, like understand what happened in the world, doing the additional DLC where it adds a little bit, like just a little bit of extra stuff, like the Ballada Champions, I believe, it gives you more background on each individual champion that you face, or not that you face, but that were your champions back in the day before the events of the story took place, and it's really, really, really good. Like I enjoyed every bit of it. I know Dan at work just finished it, and he put like 200 hours into the game. He's like, I'm not gonna stop till I get 200.
Let me tell the listeners about this guy named Dan. When he plays a game, this guy goes 100%. And when I say 100%, he literally tries to finish everything in the game. I'm not on that level. I don't know. Maybe you are, Jake. I can see Brandon doing that with
I'm on
the Zelda
some
titles.
games. It's rare. Like in
So
the last decade, I can probably say 5 games I've done that with, or something like that. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But anyways,
not too often. Um, Good time to. Well, I guess I got to say mine. Mine is pretty much unchanged from last week. I've got a still Astral Chain, which I'm at like almost 25 hours of gameplay into. It's nearing the end. I just slid into like chapter 9, or file number 9,
oh
and I
yeah,
think
okay,
there's 12 files with like a pretty much cinematic 13 file or something like that. And this file and file 8 is actually moved by pretty quickly, so I think it's getting pretty close to the end. And then really liking that. Last night I published episode 34. I got episode 35 on the back burner. And then besides that, it's Fire Emblem Three Houses still. I'm still playing through that. I was playing through that right before this podcast. Still somewhere between 20 and 25 hours of gameplay.
right.
Brandon told me I'm right before a massive event's about to take place. So I'm like, I'm on nerves right now, just waiting on it. I'm curious what's about to happen. So yeah, apparently
half your
27
army is
hours.
gonna half your army's gonna die.
Man, if something like that happens, like all the time you spent talking to them and pruning them, that'd be a heck of
Oh
a
my.
twist. But like,
Yeah.
man, and if I want to do that, like some games, very few games do that, but like I want to
Yeah.
pull my items off that character, so I can. That sounds bad, but like I've seen games where they die and like those items are gone, or they leave your party and it's like,
Yeah.
they had like this great sword, or you know what I mean?
Well,
But
I'm sure I haven't seen any news yet on the internet about like people freaking out about Fire Emblem, so it's probably not that
yeah,
dramatic. But
we'll see. I think I'm about there.
I think somebody will die though. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
if they
saying.
do, I'll just reset it, or not reset it, but use the rewind feature in game to go back. Ever since that one Death Knight where I've learned my lesson, I think I've only had one person die on the field where I click the rewind time button. You get like right now for me 3 per battle, and I
Yeah.
saved one of my characters once. It was bow and arrow Bernadetta again. She's got low health, like. Basically, if she gets within range of archers, or like sometimes you can't plan for it. Like archers will come in off the outskirts of the battlefield. And it's like, oh, reinforcements have appeared. It's like, oh, great, now she's in the line of fire.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you can't plan for everything.
Right.
It's kind of
Right.
hard. Or you probably can. I'm just not that good at it. But
Right.
because I'm so kind of new to like strategy games. But that's it for Astral Chain. I'm still playing Call of Duty, trying to level up in multiplayer, trying to, just got the officer ranks last night playing with you. And then, season 1 is about to drop on Tuesday, December 3rd. So looking forward to that. Just another couple days away.
Right. Yep.
We'll talk a little bit about that later. I put some notes down here because, yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about it in one of our segments for game news. But
All right.
besides that, the last thing was virtual reality. I talked to you off screen about this, but my headset was shit in the bed recently.
Oh,
and
no.
Yeah, like something was happening. You'd have the display up. You'd be playing,
Yeah.
like I was playing Invader Immortal, for example, and little red lines would start to appear on my Oculus Rift CV1, and then out of nowhere, the screen would turn black, but you could
Yeah.
still hear audio. The game was progressing forward, and you're like, damn. So you'd either have to pause the game, wiggle the cord, or unplug the Rift out of the back of the computer, just try to get it to work. It happened 5 times in my last playthrough. It was bad. But I talked to Oculus support, said, hey, this was the issue I was having. They had me run through like a set of 10 steps or something, finished it, put it back together, took the headset apart, put it back together, and then now it's working. I've only done like an hour's worth of gameplay since then, and no errors, no issues, no flickering screen. So it's back up and running. I think I played Beat Saber, and then I did the Lightsaber Dojo, or whatever.
And it's just okay.
Yeah.
Everything's
So
all right.
no issues on that. Going into the next segment, though, that's going to be it for our games we've been playing. Let's go with the best bit. And this one is going to be, who is your favorite video game sidekick? Favorite video game sidekick in all of gaming. A good example would be like, say, Luigi, to Mario or anybody.
Oh man. Tails to Sonic.
Tails to
I think
Sonic?
that's
That's a good one.
first thing. Yeah, I know
I
what
didn't
you're
even think
gonna
about that.
choose. You're gonna choose Diddy Kong to Donkey Kong, right?
That's my number two. I got my number two just in case you chose my number one. But yeah, it was a strong
Yeah, Tails to
second.
Sonic. Like when you think, oh, famous video game sidekicks. I mean, for me,
Yeah,
you know, old man gamer.
yeah, man. Tales of Sonic.
Yeah,
That's
you
a good
think
one
about the
though.
16-bit era. Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. So, anyways,
Flying
what are
character,
you gonna
being able
choose?
to navigate around the map like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Kind of gave me,
yeah,
at least for if you go from Donkey Kong side of things, it's Dixie Kong has her hair twirl thing, kind of
yeah.
similar in
So
a way.
like I don't know. Maybe it's with the hair twirling or the tail twirling. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I thought when I was a kid and when I first saw Tails, I thought, oh my gosh, it's so interesting. He can go just as fast as Sonic, but he doesn't have to move his legs. And he's just moving his
Yeah,
tails. That's how he goes so fast. So I don't know.
that's good,
Anyways,
man.
yeah, that's my
My
pick.
my selection was Kazooie. So for Banjo is a big beak girl that's always in his backpack. I like the. I mean, you have to play the game as a pair. Like not. I can't think of
Right.
another game that was kind of like that. It was
It's required.
yeah.
You're not ever separated from Kazooie, right?
No, the entire game, you guys are together, you banter back and forth. I like that a lot about it, where it's like she'll joke around with you, like she'll just pop out of your backpack or say something, or you have an interaction with an NPC in
Yeah.
game, and she'll be antagonistic against them. It's pretty funny, but I love
So
how. Yeah, what are you thinking?
this is a shock to our listeners, but I think I'm gonna admit this on air. I didn't know Kazooie was a girl.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you mentioned that. I don't remember if we recorded it last week, but I was
No.
surprised. You've played
I'm
Banjo
like,
Kazooie though, right?
oh,
Like
oh yeah, oh
a
hell
while
yeah.
back.
Like what? Yeah, I mean, I never owned it. I just I borrowed it from friends, and I think I rented it or one or two times. But yeah, I only found out in 2019 Banjo Kazooie or Kazooie is a girl, and I'm like, my life is ruined. What?
It's gonna
Why?
blow your mind knowing.
Yeah.
Did you know Banjo's a girl too?
Shut up.
No, no, no.
Shut
Yeah,
up.
dude. I
Just
think
don't.
early
Don't.
in the game, I think Moles or something talks
Did
to.
they establish that? Oh,
Yeah, like they'll say she or her or like they'll use those. I don't know, like pronouns
oh,
or whatever. They'll use
oh.
those to describe her early in the game. But besides that, all you can hear is like the normal speaking voice is just squawking, so you can't really tell by that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, she's necessary in the game. Like if you press, I forgot what it is. Like hold down Z, press the left on the C pad on the N64 controller. Like she'll carry the weight of Banjo and carry him around faster. Like the movement speed's a little bit quicker. She can go up like steep hills and stuff with him.
Mm-hmm.
I know that doesn't make a lot of sense that this bird
Yeah.
is able to carry a bear on its back, but like a lot of the attacks and stuff do stem with her. Like Banjo's got his own like claw attack, but she's got a jumping beak attack. She can shoot eggs out of her mouth. She can like crap them out from behind her. You can get like these little grenade things that
You
come out.
must have loved Banjo-Kazooie. I don't remember any of these details. I just
Dude,
remember
yeah,
I think there was like a double jump, right?
double
Like she would
jump. Not a
Banjo would
double jump, but
and
you have
then
a jump, and then if you press, I think it's A, I'd have to check on the controller, but she'll pop out and do like the wing flutter thing, but
oh
there's not like a
maybe that's
double
what I'm
jump.
thinking of. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
And
All
then
right.
that's pretty much it,
Yeah.
man. That'd be like my choice for a video game sidekick, but that's it for best bit. And we're gonna keep doing something like that. I really like that. What's the best X in video games? Like our first one was the best
Right.
opening. Last week was the best idle animation. This one's the best sidekick. We'll figure out another one for next week. But let's move on to game news. Now, this one, actually, let me get my topic list up. The first one is going to be Project Scarlett and virtual reality. What are your thoughts on Phil Spencer's remarks regarding VR and Xbox Next Gen console? And I actually have the quote here.
What was
This
the
just
quote?
came
Yeah,
out.
let's hear the quote. What did he
Came out a
say?
couple days ago, and I'm mixed on it, but it is as follows. Quote, I have some issues with VR. It's isolating, and I think games as a communal, kind of a together experience. We're responding to what our customers are asking for, and nobody's asking for VR.
Well, okay. I think Phil Spencer just needs to realize that for some people, Valve and whatnot, they see VR as the future. Facebook. I think I think the entire Xbox team needs to realize that they need to differentiate themselves with the rest of the pack. They can't go head to head with Sony all the time. I mean, as much as a gimmick as it seemed, the Kinect when the Xbox One first came out, that was like its thing. That was what differentiated it apart. Because really, if you think about it, most of the Xbox exclusives are on PC as well. So if you have a gaming PC, you pretty much have an Xbox. What's the incentive? Why am I buying an Xbox? There's no incentive to buy an Xbox. So I think if they leaned hard on VR, because just a prediction here, but I think Sony's gonna just view whatever their second iteration of VR is as just an afterthought, kind of like with PSVR. I don't think they're gonna lean as hard into it as some people think they are. But
they at least said it was coming.
Right, they just said it was coming. If Microsoft leaned a little bit harder into VR or AR, it would have been a thing. It would have been a thing that would make people want to buy an Xbox. But if you're just going to go on specs alone, Project Scarlett's going to be great, and we're going to have the best graphics and everything like that. You're already losing the battle. You're already losing next gen.
All your stuff's available on PC. So what's like you said, that's a perfect example. What's your incentive? Like, okay, you have the best specs on this little box, but anybody with a capable gaming PC, I've known a ton of people they did not pick up an Xbox this generation because, it is part of Xbox's initiative. Their Play Anywhere, Game Pass Ultimate. They do want people to have the freedom of choice to play these exclusives on both. But it is like you said, what's the differentiating factor? What do they have that their competitors do not? Nintendo's gimmick is portability. You can play everything on the go. It's a great idea. Or you can dock it and bring it home. PS4, a ton of great exclusives. They have virtual reality. They still have similar to Microsoft's Kinect thing, PlayStation Move and the controllers, the cameras.
Yeah, but really that's just the camera and the controllers are just for tracking purposes. Really,
Kinect died off, man. Point. It
had potential to be great. It was good. The things that killed it off, I think, were small room sizes. I had to buy. And it wasn't just limited to just Japan, too. Where I used to live, I had a smaller condo back in the day when 360 had its Kinect. And I had to buy a Nyko accessory. I basically gave it wide-angle glasses because my room was too small for Kinect. And it was just, you couldn't do much if you had a smaller room. And I think just with that technical limitation, you're already limiting a bunch of your potential customer audience. With VR, you just need to sit down and you don't even have to be full room VR. Microsoft just make a sit down VR experience and you should be all right.
Yeah, with Kinect, man, I remember when that shit first launched with the 360. Whenever they had that. It was the coolest thing in the world to me because nothing had come out yet like that. It was the only thing I really used it for. I wasn't a big fan of the games for the most part. I think Kinect Adventures or something like that, one of the earlier style games, it was okay. But I liked how I could put my hand up, and if it recognized it was my hand, it would track it, and then I could swap my screen over and being oh, I want to go through these tiles. Yeah. Hey, I want to go with launch Netflix or something. I want to just hold my hand on it. Or talk to it. Right. And the first gen was horrible on the voice communications. I don't remember if it was Xbox start this game, or Xbox start Netflix, and it was just you had to say it many times for it to get to work.
Right.
2.0 dropped with
it was ugly.
Yeah, the Xbox One, and I bought it day one. Very bad experience with my day one Xbox launch, but it was bundled. It was forced bundled. It was $500 and included the Kinect. But when I finally did play it. I played it with the integration into Rise, Son of Rome, and I thought that was actually pretty cool. A lot of people didn't do this. The game, $60 for I don't remember if it was 6 to 8 hours. It was a pretty short story. I actually enjoyed it. I did like the game. I could see definitely why people waited or held off or didn't like that. It was, so much money for so little gameplay. But with Connect, how it worked was like, say you're like I don't even remember, Centurion or whatever the leader was of your soldiers, and you could command them, be like, hey, fire arrows. I would just say that, and then in game, the enemies behind me or my allies behind me would fire arrows at the enemies. Launch catapult or whatever it was. Like you're directing them, and they'll do it, and then you're still fighting in game, right? So like I'll be fighting and taking them out, doing like the combinations X, Y, B, and I'm attacking them, and then I see a wave of enemies coming, and I'll just be like, fire arrows. You just see me screaming in my living room, fire arrows, and like they'll start firing arrows at them while I'm in combat. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I could see how this could be cool, especially for launch, because like usually things only get better after that. But that was
do you remember Steel Battalion? They made like a sequel to Steel Battalion
for like Connect mainly.
So for those who don't know, Steel Battalion was an amazing game that was for the original Xbox that had this like 100 button controller, and I think it cost like around $100 too. And it was just a great game. I mean, like you piloted
controller.
Yeah.
Holy
you didn't know
crap.
about Steel Battalion?
No.
Oh my god. Okay, that's it. I'm quitting the podcast. All right.
This is for Xbox,
No.
like an exclusive? Or?
You didn't know about Steel Battalion?
This is news to me, man.
Oh my god. You know what? Our comment section is going to be flaming you to death right now.
Think?
It was an amazing controller. Like you made you feel like you were piloting a mech. Anyways, so Microsoft made an update to it. I don't know if it's for the 360 or for the Xbox One, but they replaced a lot of the controller. What you would use that like 100 button controller was with like just gestures, and then you would yell things to your squad mates. But of course, it was janky as all heck. So
interesting.
Oh my God, Jake.
Well, just continuing that aside, my thoughts on the VR.
Yeah, come on.
It's a kind of like it's a double-edged sword. I agree with Microsoft's comments specifically in regards to their own platform, and why I think this is Microsoft maybe. Okay, I've got two trains of thoughts on this. Microsoft maybe shouldn't be focusing on VR because look how they were pretty behind. They were lagging this generation. Either single player experiences, multiplayer experiences, anything that's exclusive to their platform, why pick it up there? We've already talked about it versus like Sony, like they're falling behind. They were acquiring studios left and right at E3 2018, and then it continued again into the Game Awards, I believe, or it might have even been E3 2019 where they acquired a couple more. So all of the fruition of these companies will come to, bear fruit probably at the launch of Project Scarlett or shortly thereafter. So that's great. That's probably their focus. They want to get back either on top or they want to at least be competitive, and maybe VR isn't their focus. So I get that maybe they don't want to do it. I don't care too much for his reasoning. I don't care, don't care too much for his idea that it's isolating. Like, it doesn't have to be. The way I look at it is you are Microsoft, Sony, Facebook owns Oculus. Like, the companies that are the forerunners, like the big companies are the forerunners in VR, they can decide what direction VR goes in. So if they don't want an isolating experience, all you have to do is not make it isolating. Like, you're Microsoft, you can throw a ton of money at it. You can be the creative innovators for the future of VR. Like you can make it the way you want to.
Look at what Facebook's doing with I forgot the name of that app. I mean, like they're coming out. Stuff. Yeah, with I think it's called Horizons and stuff like that.
Oh, so. Yeah. They talked about it at the Oculus Connect or whatever it was. Like, I think it's Horizon or something. But all of their what do you call it, pushes for VR have been like social influence, like for the most part. Not big screen. Well, big screens on there. I think that existed before Facebook acquired them, maybe. Yeah. But then they also have the rec room. They have like a ton of like little social things. I played poker VR, which is really, really, really fun. You just jump in, sit at a poker table with people. You can actually move your hands and pick up cards and look at them and throw them away to fold them. And you can chat with the other guys on the table. Pretty cool. Still another social experiment, but like I don't feel isolated with that. When you play a single player game, if I'm playing Lone Echo, I'm definitely isolated. It's not a multiplayer experience, but not every game has to be like that. I'm a little passionate about that because I was hoping Microsoft would come out with something. If these big companies are doing something progressive to move the market forward, then it does that whole AMD Intel thing, like that battle to see who can come up with the best chip at the lowest price, best performance, lowest temperatures. Like, they're going to do whatever they can to be competitive so that it propels the market forward, and we as consumers only benefit from that. So that's what I want. Like, I want that. I know Sony PlayStation, they have invested a ton in virtual reality. They've said that it's not paid off quite yet. So I kind of get that. Like, so they've put a lot of money into it. The user base isn't as big. You talked about Valve. They said that, yeah, we invested a ton. It's not paid off. I think there's a quote recently after the comments by Phil Spencer where somebody from Valve was saying, like, it hasn't paid off yet, but the whole reason we're investing so heavily in it with like Half-Life Alyx that's coming out was to push hardware. We want more people to buy the Index. And it just sold out, like, I think everywhere. Like, this week, it just sold out all of, like, the Index headsets. Of course, they'll go in production and, like, sell more. But they accomplished what they wanted to with developing that. They got hype talking about it. We'll move into that segment in just a minute. But they've got a lot of people interested in it, and now their headset's sold out. So that could be an approach Microsoft could take, is push hardware units, or there's so much they could do. Just, it did feel a little dismissive from just to say, like, hey, it's not, it's isolating, it's not our focus. But I see both aspects. The one side of me says, okay, they need to focus somewhere else. The other side says, well, you're Microsoft, you can make this happen. But
Okay.
Yeah,
moving along.
Yeah, moving on.
I think Zoom's gonna kick us off here in about like 8 minutes here. We're for the listeners, we're on the free version, by the way, because Brandon and his awesomeness has the non-free
the
version.
pro version. So it might not, actually.
Yeah.
So it might not. If it does, I mean, we can work around it. But I think whenever I clicked set up this video meeting, it said something like if you have 3 or more participants, it's going to lock you at 40 minutes. Okay. But since we have 2, it might not. If it does, we'll get the boot. And
I have my own time restraints anyway, so.
Okay. But yeah, it's okay. We'll move into the next bit of gaming news. It's going to be Call of Duty Season 1, like I said, is dropping December 3rd. This is cool. They're including new maps, new modes. There's probably going to be some cosmetic type stuff, maybe weapons like added into the game. Big thing for us, we're both fans of like Call of Duty 4, and they have Vacant and Crash coming. So those are 2
Crash is
of
big.
the maps.
Crash is big. Crash is going to be nice. Looking forward to Crash. The only thing I have to say about this bit of news is that, I hope Activision, it's Activision, right? It's publisher.
Yeah, Activision is the publisher.
I hope Activision doesn't start, milking it for microtransactions, but I think it's okay so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I do see the season pass, and I could see potential later for that to go down a dark path, but for now it's all right.
Well, the big thing for us, I'm pretty sure I read that they said like all the maps and the modes, like say infected, and where like there's whatever you call it, one person's infected, you got to infect everybody else. All that's free, but the DLC, the part that's going to be paid, is going to be all the cosmetic stuff and possibly weapons.
Okay, so, I'm fine with that. If it's another tiger skin. Right, if it's another tiger skin for your M4, I couldn't care less about that. So I mean, I don't want I'm not all about like blinging out my gun that way. If it was new attachments, that's a different thing. But if I just want to be like fashionable with my gun, which who's gonna see that? I mean, it looks, in my opinion, it looks tacky anyways, putting all those skins on your gun. So.
Yeah. I mean, hey, to each their own. Like, I thought it's pretty cool. Like, the fact that they're coming out with new content. I paid, $60 for this game at launch, and then here comes a ton of new maps. Ones I'm familiar with, ones I'm nostalgic about, and they PlayStation had Call of Duty 4 as a PS Plus title, maybe half a year ago. So I actually played back through that, at least not the single player mode, but I did play through some of the multiplayer again on it, and it's been like remastered. It looks way better, and it like I remember running through the maps like that, and a lot of these maps were in there, and I was like, oh, this is brings you back, and it's it's fun. Everything looks way better. It's a good time, and I can't wait to play that in like this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it for news for like the Call of Duty. Like that's just coming around the corner. We're gonna know more about it like on Tuesday, but
right.
For VR, this is moving into our next bit of news. Let's see. Oh, actually, real quick, Call of Duty. What about the Battle Royale mode? What do you think? What about the leaked 200-person Battle Royale mode that dropped about a week or so ago?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not that good at first-person shooters.
Yeah.
Despite what my kill-death ratio says in Call of Duty, I'm not going to disclose that on the podcast.
Humble brag. Nice.
No. but like when for whatever reason, like when I played Apex and a little bit of Fortnite, there are just a lot better kids out there, I'm not that good, and especially with like Battle Royale games. So on a personal level, I'm not too excited about this because I know I'm probably gonna die within the first like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still cool to see a new mode. Hopefully it doesn't like let everybody. I don't know. For me, I was excited about the Battle Royale mode for Battlefield 5, and a little bit underwhelming. I don't know.
Oh.
We'll see how it translates.
Interesting. I never played it. So.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly some people were really into the Battle Royale mode for the latest Black Ops game, I think it was. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways.
I didn't play. So my thoughts are like I want to see it. I'm always for more options. Like it doesn't hurt too much. I don't see how it could hurt if they just add the mode itself. It's like, hey, if you want to play, you can. Or here's 10 to 15 other modes that you can play. Like I love that. Like, hey, just give me more options, and I choose. Like maybe I'm not a big fan of, say, I don't know, Realism, the HUD one, which I actually do like. But say if I'm not a fan, I just don't have to play that. I can just ignore it. Act like it doesn't exist. It doesn't force you to go from like mode to mode. Like, so just the fact it has it, hey, that's cool. It's something else you can jump on. But moving on, we'll talk about Half-Life in virtual reality. I don't think it's gonna kick us off. I'm gonna go with it doesn't. If it does, I got some ideas. But until then, let's keep chatting, man.
It's fine. Like, so I mean, Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah.
It seems like an okay game. The fact that it has such a high requirement, like you need a high spec PC to run Alyx
or something.
Yeah. I think that you're already alienating your fan base a little bit, because it's a Half-Life game. Everybody wants to play the Half-Life game, but then now like a lot of people can't because they don't really have the latest and greatest PC to play it. Which I mean, I guess upgrade. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's great that it's bringing a major franchise to VR. It puts VR. It makes it more mainstream, at least with the rest of the video gaming community. Hopefully, they won't see it as a niche as much. A niche.
That's my hope too. That a big title like this can kind of pioneer it. Propel it forward, make more people interested. It's a hope. It doesn't seem to be Valve's intentions, like they said. We're just trying to sell headsets, but hey, hopefully that'd be cool.
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think it's gonna sell any more headsets. I don't think if they made a version on the Quest, and I'm not talking about like the Oculus Link, because even then the Oculus Link has higher PC requirements. If they actually made a version on Quest, I think it would be a lot more popular. But that's just me being selfish because I have a Quest.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. So, like I got a Rift, and I haven't upgraded yet to any of the new platforms. I haven't got the Quest. I haven't got the Rift S. Like I want to juice.
You'll be able to play Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, like I'm gonna keep this thing until they say, hey, you can't play the new games that are coming out. So if they're gonna make this game available, they're gonna throw it on Steam. It's compatible with other headsets, which from what I've read, it is. I have no reason to upgrade My graphics card's like probably just around the minimum requirement, so maybe it won't be like optimal, but it should work. It should run. That's I mean, that's fine. You know, like as long as I can still play the game, I'm gonna juice this as long as I can. I bought this in like July of 2017, so 2.5 years now I've had it. I want to try to tweak it out to 4 whenever VR 2.0 comes, where like the next gen headsets are popping. But
Man.
that moves into the second part of Half-Life. Like, I've not played Half-Life 1 or 2. I should probably be shamed because that's like a staple of PC gaming. But it's that's why I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts.
Battalion.
Yeah, now Half-Life.
Half-Life.
Actually, I don't even have it. Like, I don't like. I thought I owned it, but I don't. I do have the Portal series, but I don't have Half-Life. Yeah.
You have the Portal series, but have you even booted it up? Have you started it?
I only bought it like a week ago. I think Daniel Ahmad on Twitter said, "Hey, it's like $1.50 or something, super on sale."
Oh my god!
I think it was him.
You know what you need to go.
But
as soon as you finish recording, you need to just like
try some Portal.
Boot it up.
Portal 1 or 2?
Yeah.
Do you have to go in order?
Well, I mean, 2 is a continuation of the story from 1, but 2 has a lot better writing than 1.
So 2's better, but you got to do 1.
2 is just hilarious. Like, from a writing standpoint, the jokes and whatnot in there, there's so many. It's a game, it's one of the few games that's, like, quotable in terms of, like, the jokes and, like, the gags that it leans on, you know. You ever wonder where that potato gag came from? It's from Portal, because, like, Gladys ends up being run from a potato. So
no spoilers. I will play.
Yeah, well, I mean,
eventually.
That's where I think that, at least to my knowledge, that's where I think the gag came from, or the meme came from. So, but anyways.
Well, that goes into like our thoughts with the current view of the VR landscape. Do you think it's a novelty on the verge of mainstream? And what's your favorite VR experience?
Is this the war cry? This is the war cry.
No, this is still part of Half-Life Virtual Reality, or a little segment there.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, if I was a realist, and I'm just going to keep this short, if I was a realist, you know, virtual reality hasn't quite hit mainstream yet. There are companies that are really trying to lean hard into making it mainstream.
Yeah.
But it still feels very, very unique, because, you know, I don't think it's because of the isolation issue like Spencer was talking about, but it'll just take time. I mean, it's getting there. It's getting there, but, you know, it'll just take time, and it'll take better technology too. Right now, you're currently limited to like a 90-degree field of view, roughly. So, you know, you get a better field of view. Yeah, I mean, if technology gets vastly better, you eliminate the screen door effect.
Right.
You know, that I think this is one of those issues that we can solve with technology increases. So
I think they tried really, really hard, all these companies, and it's been said by, I wish I had a quote down here from what company said it, but they essentially said, like, we thought VR would be much further along by this stage. It might be Sony, but one of the companies that's pushing like for it was, actually I think it was Mark Zuckerberg. It was for Oculus at one of the recent events. Like, he said, like, we thought it was going to be a lot further along, but we're still optimistic for the future of VR. A lot of companies pumped a ton of money into this. They thought this was going to be the next big thing. I still think it has the potential. I still think it's there, but you can tell by most VR games that drop aren't even at the full price. They're in that $30 to $40 range, and even then people wait for it to go on sale. Like, it's just the user base is super small, and most of these companies don't release the numbers of, like, say, headsets sold or current active base on X game. So it's like you don't really know. But when you hear comments like that from the big developers, it's like, okay, so it's not kicking off where it needs to be right now for them to pump more money into it. Why spend millions on developing this game for a handful of individuals? You know, like, it needs to have a bigger install base. You know, it needs to have more people. There's so many barriers to entry right now. You got to have a strong PC, or like the Oculus Quest, but it can run a lot of the games, like a lot of the IPs by Oculus and other companies or whatever, but they're still limited to like some of them until now that they create the Oculus Link. Now it expands that up. I think that was a great step forward for, you know, virtual reality landscape. But yeah, it's still not where it needs to be mainstream yet. So I'd agree there.
Yeah.
Besides that, for favorite VR experience, so I got just about two-liner on this. Originally, I would have said Lone Echo because it does feel super immersive and it
Mm-hmm.
really did sell me on VR initially. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, what is my favorite experience? What's my favorite experience? And I would have normally said that, but since then, I'd probably have to go with Vader Immortal. And emphasis on the experience. Now it's
Yeah. Yeah.
more linear. You do lose like the full freedom that you get in like Lone Echo. I can go in pretty much any direction,
Yeah.
but there's no denying the fun that's beyond like the lightsaber mechanics, force power you get in episode 2, the storytelling, how it propels that story forward for in between episodes 3 and 4. You're on
Right. Oh,
Mustafar,
I never answered that question. What my favorite VR experience was,
Yeah,
but yes, I'll agree with I'll agree with that. Vader Immortal is really good because it was written as a game, not as a VR experience. That's the
yeah,
problem I think with a lot of VR games still today is that they're still trying to lean hard on the gimmicks. You saw this with the Wii and with with the DS and the 3DS. They tried to write games to fit the mechanic, but instead, if you just create a really good game that just happens to be a VR game,
yeah.
you know, a good example of this. Actually, you know what? Instead of Vader Immortal, I think my pick would be Astrobot Rescue Mission on
Mm.
PlayStation VR, because that's
I've
a
heard
perfect
great
example of
things.
That's exactly what I was talking about. It was written. It was written at first as a demo for PSVR, but they created Astrobot as a good game first and foremost, and the fact that it was just a VR title was secondary. That's what games need to do. They need to
Yeah.
be a great game first and foremost, written as a game, not as a VR title, and then just make it VR, later on. Just say, oh yeah, this is a VR mode. So yeah.
All right, man. I agree. Let us move on to our final segment. This is going to be the war cry. Again, this is basically just topics that we're going to talk about each week that are designed to spark a debate. And I teased this on the last podcast. I didn't really talk about what this one was going to be. Kind of brought it up a little bit in the beginning, but here is our topic. How much does pre-release marketing and coverage influence your enjoyment of a title? Do you think that trailers, previews, and reviews set a certain level of expectation when starting a new title? Are blind playthroughs the ideal way to experience video games? So, what are your thoughts on that, man?
I think that, well, it's weird because I've played games where I purposefully shut myself out from the hype, um,
Yeah,
and I've also had just a good experience hyping myself up for a game and then playing it. But this is like with almost any media, with games and movies. When you hype yourself up for something too much, you kind of let yourself down.
yeah,
um, you know, just like how I don't know. If you set your expectations too high, you're bound to let yourself down in one facet of the game or another, whether it's the gameplay or the story or whatnot. So, I'm just I go through it like how I view a lot of things. Just hope for the best, but you kind of just like you expect the worst. And that sounds crazy, but it actually helps with the enjoyment of the game because you're not thinking, oh, I'm gonna see a great game. So
hmm.
to
You have
answer
the
your
reverse idea,
question,
basically.
yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, I guess a little bit of hype is good. That's with most things in life.
Yeah,
um, it's not completely black or white. I think zero hype also hurts as well. I
I
think you
agree.
need.
Yeah,
I think game companies have like a weird balance. You need to have just enough hype, but then a lot of them like lean too hard into, oh, we gotta market it. We gotta market it all to hell, and this is all you're gonna see. You're gonna see, you know, um, Call of Duty, like lunch boxes. You're gonna see Call of Duty, sports drinks and whatnot. Oh my God, yeah, I just thinking about that makes me think Activision would totally market it to kids. Actually, didn't they release action figures?
Oh, I don't know.
Didn't Activision release
Call of
something
Duty
like
action
that?
figures?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's kind of. I'm like, oh, probably not. I mean, hey, you know what? Our comment section will definitely straighten me out on this
Yeah,
later.
yeah. It'd be like a
Um,
corrections segment or
yeah.
something.
But yeah, it's just like there's always. Too bad Brandon isn't here because he could definitely talk more about this.
Yeah.
We should save this for next week as well, or at least ask Brandon about it
Yeah,
because
we can
I'd
do
love
that.
to hear his take on this from like a marketing perspective because that's what his bread and butter is. But
Yeah.
there's a fine line between overhyping a game and like underhyping it.
If I had to guess, his viewpoint would be he's more on like the blind playthrough side of things. Like he doesn't want to know almost anything about a game prior to release. And yeah, to each their own. I think you hit the nail on the head with it. Like too little can also ruin your enjoyment. And my personal viewpoint on this is no matter what, hype too much or too little, it's not going to change the end product. So your initial experience for the game itself is gonna be the same. The game doesn't change based off the marketing beforehand. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Right,
your
right,
opinions and influence will, but the game is the
right.
game. It's gonna be the way it was with or without it. Like so it like for me, it did affect me with like Diablo 3. We'll say after playing many years of Diablo 2, Diablo 3 launches, really crappy launch. Yeah, I got up to the hype. I watched every gameplay trailer. I watched every cinematic that they posted in advance. Like I followed forums, I chatted with the community, like super hyped for that game. They announced it something like 4 years or so in advance. So like that was another thing I want to talk about. I think that's bad. I hate when like video game developers or publishers, probably the publisher side of the house, like they'll announce a game 4 years in advance and it's like, come on, like it's gonna
Right,
fall off
yeah.
people's radars if you just have a title for a game. Like just don't like I get that maybe some people want to know, well, is the series dead? Is something going to be worked on? Is there a future of this? Like I kind of get that, but I don't expect a shadow drop every single game. Like, hey, we've been working on this last 3 years that you didn't know about, and it's available tomorrow or now. But I do expect it to be a little bit more reasonable. 6 months or something out, something like that. Like, hey, this game's
They can
coming.
always, they can
You
always.
know?
I mean, a little. Even if they did overhype it, sometimes you can correct the course of the ship a little bit with post-release patches. I mean, look at No Man's Sky. It's a
Right.
totally different game now.
Yeah.
It's finally the game that was hyped way
Yeah.
back when it was announced at E3, but then again, the hype kind of killed it because they were expecting the game that they got now, back when it was released. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, it's pretty.
things can be fixed. Things can be fixed to a certain degree. Hopefully, Anthem will be like that, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah. Anyways.
And that's pretty much the same thing I was thinking. I do appreciate good marketing. I do like as an example, Borderlands 3 recently, I think they marketed that game perfectly. Like I think for the crowd, the fans, the people that are going to buy that game, the install base they had, like they leaned heavily into the same style that Borderlands 1 and 2 was, updated visuals, graphics, quality of life mechanics, all that. But the trailers were very it had their comedy. It still had like their joking. It still showed like, hey, we have millions of guns, and the quirkiness that is the Borderlands series. Like they did very well marketing that in line with that game. So I can
Right.
appreciate that. I still haven't bought the game yet. It's something I do want to play, but like I can appreciate good marketing like that. But no matter what they did, no matter how much they hyped it up, how long earlier, like yeah, it's going to affect your hype cycle leading up to it. The game is still going to be the game. It's still going to be the product it was with or without the announcements, But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got on that for the Warcry segment.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, dude, before we end this podcast for the day?
Um.
Basically, the segments
I
we
was
had.
gonna. I was gonna say. Well, no. I was gonna say something witty, but right now, without any coffee in me, I can't say anything.
Nice. Need some more coffee.
I'm like,
I'm right
yeah.
behind you on that.
I'm markedly less funny without any coffee. with me.
Nice, man.
I mean, like, I'm not that I try to be funny, but you know, like the stupid shit that I say. There's less stupid shit for me to say when I don't have enough coffee in me. So that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got, guys. Mic drop.
I got nothing else to add. You know,
all right.
It's a good segment, good little bit. We'll get Brandon, maybe Darren next week. Chat more about it. We'll either have to plan for a longer podcast time or shorter responses. We'll talk about that throughout the week.
Yeah, man.
I like your idea of bringing that same question back to Brandon. He brought that this War Cry segment initially, so I'm sure he's got something to say about it. So we'll throw it to him.
He's got something to say.
Yeah.
Brandon wouldn't bring up a segment or something on the podcast show notes if he doesn't have something strong to say about it. Because I can see him talking at length about this, especially from his background. So that's I'm actually kind of interested to hear as a listener what his opinion is on this. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah, but that pretty much does it. That wraps up this podcast. Thanks for joining the War Cry Games podcast, episode number 3. Thanks, John, for hopping on and chatting about these topics. And we will see you again next week for episode number 4. Take care.